Hi, welcome to the Film Wimp channel. I am the Film Wimp, Brendan Murphy, and today we will be discussing The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is, of course, the sequel to The Amazing Spider-Man, which, I gotta say, when it came out a couple years ago, I was very disappointed in it. I didn't feel that Andrew Garfield was a good Peter Parker, a good Spider-Man. I thought he was way too jittery, he was a little too hyper to be Peter Parker. I thought a lot of the development was done really wrong. I thought the story just wasn't really there. There wasn't enough emotional power within the story. There wasn't enough emotional power within the relationships, really. So I was really very sour on this franchise. But I gotta say, as someone who was very disappointed in that first movie, I really enjoyed this second one. Whatever doubts I had about Andrew Garfield in the first one, he fixes immediately. Now, he still does a little bit of his little Shia LaBeouf stuttering, but he cleans it up a lot more here. Now, there are still some of those problems that we had in the first one. The development of the villains is still very non-existent. You never really get a feel for them. You just pretty much get, oh, I know who that villain's name is, but you don't really get a sense of their motivation. You don't really get a sense of what they're all about. You just get, oh, this is the villain, and I guess we'll run with it. The relationship between Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker is also a lot of what this movie deals with. And Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield have a lot of chemistry. I mean, they are really boyfriend and girlfriend in real life, so I get why that chemistry is there. But a lot of the dialogue in their scenes is not very good. A lot of it's really cheesy, a lot of it's really hammy, a lot of it just really doesn't work. But you do get the point that they are a couple. They do love each other, they have feelings for each other, and it overall really works in the movie. Another point I gotta bring up, Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man is so fun to watch in this movie. He's the actual Spider-Man from the comics, you know, he's basically trolling all the guys he's fighting in this movie. You're laughing along the entire time he's going, and it actually feels like Spider-Man. And as a huge fan of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, because, you know, they're like the godfather of superhero trilogies, as far as, you know, the first two are classics and the third, well, you know. But in those movies, you never really got that sense of Spider-Man being really the fun hero, and in this, you really do get that. Another point I gotta give to this movie is that while the first Amazing Spider-Man felt really rushed, and you could really feel that they were only making the movie to keep the rights, this actually feels a lot more like a Spider-Man movie. We're actually developing Peter Parker as a character, and we're developing Spider-Man as a character, and, you know, we're also getting more of that universe that they're going for. But one thing I do have to say is it still feels really small in scale. You know, it does have 3 villains, but it just kind of feels like, you know, this is just a bad day for Spider-Man. There's no real build-up of, like, this threat that they want you to feel like, oh my gosh, Electro, oh my gosh, he's coming. Peter Parker better watch out. There's not really that. There's just, oh, I guess there's this guy over here, I gotta go take care of him, and yeah. Now, speaking of him actually fighting the villains, the action in this movie is very well done. And usually, in a movie where they use a lot of slow-mo, that's usually a pretty big turn-off for me. But the way they make it feel here, in regards to Peter's spider sense, it actually does work really well. It's really stylized, it looks really clean, and it just looks awesome. In regards to Spider-Man saving people, you actually get to see that in this movie. Like in the first Amazing Spider-Man, where he's basically just stopping all these guys for his own personal vendetta, and he's not really trying to save people just to save people. He's either just, you know, chasing down the guy who killed his uncle, or saving the city, and you don't really get a chance to see him save the small people, which is such a big part of Spider-Man's character. And when it actually happens in this movie, it's some of the best moments in the entire thing. Now, as far as the villains' performances, Jamie Foxx and Dane DeHaan are really over the top and just don't really work. You can tell that they're trying, but the script just doesn't allow them to do anything. They're really just glossed over, and you don't really get a feel for these villains at all. And in turn, you never really get a sense of what the actors are going for. Now I know Dane DeHaan and Jamie Foxx are both really talented, and it makes me sad because I know these guys can rise above the material they're working in, but once again the material there just isn't really all that great. In conclusion, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a very fun Spider-Man movie. It never really reaches that greatness that we had in Spider-Man 1 and 2, but it's way better than Amazing Spider-Man 1, and the acting is better, the action is better, the script writing, once again, needs a lot of work since they're developing this franchise like nothing else. So, in the end, I give The Amazing Spider-Man 2 3 out of 5 underdeveloped villains. Now, what did you think of The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Do you think that it was great? Even better than the Sam Raimi movies? Do you think Andrew Garfield still isn't that great of a Spider-Man? Do you think it's even worse than the first one? Whatever your thoughts, let me know what they are. This is the Film Wimp signing off, and remember, exercise your right to criticize.